I knew something was off the moment she said it. "Sit down. We need to talk." Except her voice didn't match the words. It was steadier than usual, but softer too, like she was trying to sound firm while something else tugged at her from underneath. She stood by the window, one hand on the curtain, the other cupped around a mug she hadn't sipped from in a while. The steam was gone, but she held it anyway. Maybe for warmth, maybe for something to do with her hands. The late afternoon light cut across her shoulder and made her look like she belonged in a painting someone spent years staring at. I hovered by the doorway longer than I should have, pretending I was deciding where to sit. Truth was, I just liked watching her. Not in a bold way. More like the way someone watches a story they are afraid to interrupt. She didn't look at me at first. Her eyes stayed on the street outside, but her jaw tightened a little when I finally stepped closer. Not fear. Not annoyance. Something quieter. Something she wasn't naming. I chose the armchair opposite her, though every part of me wanted to sit closer. She turned then. A small turn. Enough for her gaze to land on me, and that alone made the air shift. "You took your time," she said. "It sounded serious," I replied. Her lip caught on her teeth for a second, like she wasn't sure if she wanted to smile or hide it. She placed the mug on the table with a soft clink. Her fingers lingered on the handle a beat too long. "Maybe it is," she said. The room felt too quiet after that. Even the old clock on the wall seemed to hold its breath. She crossed her arms, then uncrossed them, straightened her blouse, let it wrinkle again. Little movements that didn't match how composed she usually was. Her confidence was still there, but today it flickered at the edges. I leaned forward without meaning to. Did I do something wrong? No, she rubbed her thumb against her palm as if smoothing out something invisible. Not wrong. Just different. She walked toward me then, slow, like each step asked a question she wasn't ready to answer. Instead of sitting across from me, she took the spot on the couch right beside the armchair, close enough that her knee brushed mine when she shifted. She didn't apologize for the touch. Her eyes finally met mine, steady and searching. "I've been thinking," she said. "Too much, probably." I swallowed. "About what?" Her gaze flicked to my mouth, then away so quickly I almost doubted it happened. "Almost. That's the problem," she whispered. "I don't trust where my thoughts keep going." My heartbeat jumped. I tried to hide it by resting my hands on my knees, but my fingers tightened against the fabric. She noticed. Her eyes softened, just a shade. She reached out, almost touched my wrist, then pulled back before making contact. The pullback said more than the reach. "I shouldn't be saying any of this," she murmured. "Then why did you ask me to sit down?" I asked. She exhaled, slow, shaky enough to crack the last bit of distance between us. Her hand lifted again, this time less hesitant. Her fingertips grazed mine. Barely a touch, but it felt like the room tilted around it. "I don't know how much longer I can pretend this is nothing," she said. The door behind us clicked. She froze. I turned. Someone had opened it. Her hand slipped away from mine, and the moment collapsed. The door didn't open all the way, just enough for a draft to slip in and flutter the papers on the table. She stood still, waiting, listening. When nothing followed, she let out a quiet breath and pressed the door shut with the back of her hand. The moment had sprung a leak, but it hadn't fully drained. She stayed by the door longer than necessary, her forehead tipped toward the wood as if thinking through the next 5 things she should not say. "You're jumpy today," I said. "That's one word for it." She didn't turn around. Her shoulder lifted with a small, humorless laugh. Her blouse pulled tight for a second, tracing the line of her back. I tried not to stare, tried and failed. "It's my fault," I said before I could rethink it. "I shouldn't have." "Don't finish that." Her voice cut in, quiet but sharp enough to stop me. She turned then, leaning her shoulder against the doorframe. Her hair had fallen slightly out of place. She didn't fix it. "You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just out of practice." "Practice?" She waved her hand, brushing off her own words. "Talking, being honest, letting someone sit this close." My chest tightened a little. She didn't notice, or maybe she did and chose not to acknowledge it. She walked back to the couch, slower this time, softer around the edges. When she sat, she didn't choose distance. She let her knee touch mine again. This time she stayed there. I wasn't always like this, she said. I used to be good at letting people in. But life gets loud, then quiet, too quiet, and you start, I don't know, guarding things that don't need guarding. There was a story hiding under that person, a hurt, something she didn't want to unpack. I lowered my voice. Was it a bad relationship? She gave a small, lopsided smile that didn't reach her eyes. More like a slow fade. Years of being in the same room with someone who eventually stopped seeing you. You get used to being background noise. The way she said it, steady, matter of fact, felt heavier than a confession shouted through tears. I'm not trying to fix you, I said, but you're not background to me. Her fingers tightened around the cushion beside her. Tiny flex. Her throat moved with a swallow she tried to hide. You're too young to say things like that, she whispered. I almost laughed. You think age makes someone blind? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and brushed my shoulder with the back of her hand, like she was testing the temperature of something dangerous. The touch was brief but warm, familiar and forbidden at the same time. I should be the responsible one here, she said. You are, I said. You're the only one trying not to say what you want. Her breath caught, not loudly but enough. She looked at me the way someone looks at a door they're afraid to open because they already know what's behind it. Her hand slid from my shoulder to my forearm, just resting there, just long enough to change something between us. Then she whispered, barely audible, I don't want to stop. And this time, neither of us moved away. Her hand was still on my forearm when her phone lit up on the table. The sudden glow broke the moment like a stone dropped into still water. She jerked her hand back. I felt the absence before I registered the movement. A name flashed across the screen. She stiffened. Don't, I said. You don't have to check it. Ido. Her voice was tight, a thread pulled too far. She reached for the phone but didn't open the message. She just stared at the notification until it dimmed again. Only then did she set it face down with a sigh that sagged her whole posture. Is everything okay? I asked. I don't know. She rubbed her temples. People talk. People assume. And I am not making this simpler. You're allowed to have a life. Not one that looks like this. She motioned between us. The space was thin, too thin for denial. I leaned forward. No one knows. That's the problem, she whispered. They will. Before I could argue, a sharp knock rattled the front door. She froze. I froze. Another knock. Louder this time. Are you expecting someone? I whispered. No, her voice came out barely there. Footsteps shifted on the other side of the door. A shadow moved across the frosted glass panel. Whoever it was lingered, waiting. Her shoulders tensed like she was bracing for impact. She moved toward the door. I reached out without thinking and touched her wrist. She stopped instantly. You don't have to answer, I said. Her pulse fluttered under my fingers. A quick, nervous rhythm. She looked at my hand on her wrist, then up at me. If I don't, it becomes worse. They'll keep asking why. Then I should go, I said, even though every part of me recoiled at the idea. No, she stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that I could feel the heat off her skin. If you open that door, they'll see you. They'll see this. The knock came again. She pressed her forehead against my chest in a small, helpless gesture she didn't mean to make. Her breath warmed the fabric of my shirt. My hands hovered at her sides, unsure if touching her would make this better or impossible. Her phone buzzed again on the table. She flinched. She lifted her head, eyes searching mine in a quiet panic. I can't let them think something is happening. But something is happening, I said. The words slipped out, honest and reckless. Her breath hitched. She didn't argue. The footsteps outside finally retreated. We heard them fade down the hall until silence settled again. Neither of us moved. Her face was inches from mine. Too close for a lie, too close to pretend. Her fingers brushed my waist, barely grazing. A touch she didn't commit to but couldn't stop. I leaned in. Not a kiss. Just close enough that our noses nearly touched. She closed her eyes for half a second, fighting something inside her. "Don't," she whispered. But she didn't pull away. She didn't move at all. She just stayed there, suspended between wanting and running, her breath mixing with mine, her hands trembling where they hovered near my shirt. And in that thin, fragile space, we were closer than we had ever been, even as both of us tried, and failed, to resist it. She was still pressed close, her breath warm against my cheek, when something inside her seemed to snap. Not loudly, more like a thread giving way after being pulled too tight for too long. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. Her voice wasn't steady anymore. It trembled at the edges, the way someone sounds when they are fighting with themselves harder than with anyone else. I didn't touch her at first. I just let the silence wrap around us, thick and close. Then slowly, carefully, I lifted a hand and brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. The movement was small, almost nothing, but her eyes widened like I'd crossed a line she had drawn only in her mind. She grabbed my wrist, not to push it away, to hold it there. "You don't understand what this would cost me," she said. "What if I do?" My voice was low, too low, because her fingers were still around my wrist and her forehead was inches from mine. "You're 20, she said, as if the number itself was a reason to stop breathing. "You say it like it cancels out the way you look at me." She stiffened, eyes flicking away. "I don't look at you." "Yes, you do." I said it softly, because the truth didn't need to be loud. Her grip on my wrist tightened before she let go. She stepped back a fraction, just enough to pretend she was regaining distance, not enough to actually create any. "I can't want this," she said. "But you do." She swallowed hard. Her throat moved. Her hands curled at her sides like she was afraid to lift them again. "I'm not supposed to," she said. "That's not the same as not wanting." Her breath left her in a shaky exhale. She leaned against the wall, almost missing it with her shoulder like she wasn't fully in her own body. I stepped toward her, slow, giving her space to stop me. She didn't. "You think I haven't tried to ignore this?" she said, voice soft and raw. "I've tried pretending you're just young and curious, that you'll get bored, that someone your age will show up and I'll be nothing but a mistake you never mention again." I moved closer until my hand was beside her head, not touching her, but close enough for the heat to pass between us. "That's not how I see you. Stop saying things like that," she whispered, but it came out more like a plea than a command. "Why?" "Because they're true." She closed her eyes only for a second, but it was long enough for her composure to slip. When she opened them again, she looked at me like she was standing at the edge of something she wanted but feared more than she could admit. I lifted her chin with 2 fingers, gently. Her breath caught. The air between us felt charged, electric in the quiet room. "If I kiss you," I said, "you'll never be able to pretend again." Her lips parted in a silent breath. Her eyes dropped to my mouth, then back up. She didn't move away. She didn't speak. She lifted a hand, slow and trembling, and rested it against my chest. Her palm stayed there, feeling the uneven beat beneath. "Then don't," she whispered, though her fingers curled lightly into my shirt, pulling me just a little closer. I leaned in, our noses brushed. Her breath wavered on my skin, and right as her lips almost met mine, the front door handle rattled. Someone was trying to come in. The door handle jolted again, harder this time. She pushed away from me so fast the air cooled between us. Her hand slipped from my shirt, but her fingers trembled like they weren't done holding on. "Stay behind the wall," she whispered, breath uneven. "Don't let them see you." I stepped back into the narrow alcove beside the bookshelf. She smoothed her hair, straightened her blouse, pressed her palms against her cheeks like she could erase the last 10 seconds. The door swung open. A voice I recognized floated in. "I knocked earlier. You didn't answer." My stomach dropped. Her friend. The one who always watched me a little too carefully when we crossed paths. She forced a thin smile. I was in the shower. You? At this hour? Her friend stepped inside without waiting. Her eyes scanned the room with a sharpness that made my spine go rigid. You seem flustered. She laughed, brittle around the edges. It's just warm in here. Her friend's gaze drifted from the untouched mug to the couch cushions that were still dented from where we sat too close. Then to the faint mark my shoulder had left on the wall. Are you alone? The question landed like a stone. She hesitated, just a second too long. Her friend stepped deeper into the room. I could feel her presence moving closer even from behind the wall. My heart thudded hard enough to hear. Of course, she finally said, but her voice had a faint shake in it, one her friend didn't miss. You're lying, her friend said quietly. The air tightened. My pulse kicked. She stiffened. What are you talking about? She said. Her friend didn't answer. She walked toward the hallway, toward me. My breath stuck in my throat. She reached the edge of the wall, inches from seeing me. Her friend stopped, looked at her, then looked again at the couch. You've been different lately, the friend said softly. You smile at your phone. You drift off mid-sentence. You look younger somehow. She froze. You're seeing someone. The accusation wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Her friend waited. The silence stretched. My fingers dug into the corner of the wall as if I could hold myself inside it. Then the twist. Her friend stepped closer to her and lowered her voice. Is it him? Her head snapped up. Who? The boy. A beat. The one who looks at you like you hung the moon. She inhaled sharply, a sound too raw to hide. Her friend watched her reaction, and I saw the realization land across her face like a slow, devastating truth. Oh God, it is him. She reached for her friend's arm. You can't say anything. I already promised someone I wouldn't, her friend said. That made her flinch. Someone? Her friend hesitated, then looked straight toward my hiding place, eyes narrowing just enough to freeze me. I overheard you two the other day, she said. Not everything. Just enough to know this isn't harmless. My breath stopped. Her shoulders sagged with something between fear and relief. You weren't supposed to know. Ido. And you need to decide, her friend said, before this becomes something none of you can undo. Silence. Heavy. Final. Her friend stepped toward the door. I won't tell anyone. Not yet. She stared after her until the latch clicked shut. Only then did she turn toward me. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stood there, one hand pressed over her chest, trying to steady her heartbeat. I stepped out from behind the wall. Slowly, carefully. Her eyes lifted to mine, and something in them had changed. A decision forming. A fear rising. We can't hide anymore, she whispered. She reached for my hand. This time, she didn't pull back. She didn't let go of my hand, even after the door shut. Her grip was tight, almost desperate, like if she loosened it, the whole thing would unravel. The room felt too small, too warm, too charged for either of us to pretend anymore. Come here, she said quietly. Not an order, not a request, something in between. I took a step toward her, then another. When I was close enough for the heat of her body to reach me, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. I should have stopped this, she said. A long time ago. You didn't. That's the problem. She looked up at me, eyes flicking between my mouth and my eyes like she couldn't decide where the danger really was. Her hand slid from mine but didn't fall away. Instead, it drifted up to my chest, fingers spreading softly over my shirt. She could feel my heartbeat. I could feel the tremble in her touch. I keep thinking about what people will say, she whispered. I keep thinking about you. Her breath hitched. She leaned closer, the space between us thinning until I could feel her words warm against my neck. This could ruin everything, she said. Or it could be real. Her fingers curled gently into the fabric over my chest. She rested her forehead against my shoulder, not hiding, not collapsing, just letting herself be close. Her breath brushed the side of my throat, soft and uneven. You have no idea how long I've been fighting this, she murmured. Then stop fighting, I whispered. She lifted her head slowly. Her face was inches from mine, eyes glassy with the weight of the last few days. Her hand slid up to my jaw, thumb brushing the corner of my mouth. The touch was tender, cautious, like she was learning the shape of something she feared she'd never touch again. You're too young, she said again. But the words didn't carry any strength now. They came out thin, cracked, already defeated. Then teach me, I said softly. Her eyes fluttered shut for a moment. When they opened, something had settled in them. Not certainty, not comfort, but a kind of surrender that made my breath tighten. She stepped backward toward the wall, pulling me with her by the front of my shirt. Not forceful, just a small, instinctive tug that erased the last inch between us. Her body brushed mine, warm, hesitant, fully aware. This is a choice, she said. For both of us. I know. If we do this, there's no pretending later. No going back to polite conversations and safe distance. I don't want polite, I whispered. I want you. Her lips parted, a small, shaky breath escaping. Her hand slid up to the back of my neck, fingers threading lightly into my hair. She pulled me closer until our foreheads touched. Say it again, she murmured. I want you. Her eyes closed. I felt her breathe those words in like they filled something missing. Then she opened her eyes, looked at me with absolute clarity, and whispered, Then stay. No hesitación. No running. A choice finally made. And for the first time, we both stopped pretending. She didn't move for a long moment after saying, Stay. Her hand was still at the back of my neck, fingers slightly curled, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to hold on, or if she'd already held on too tightly. I rested my forehead against hers. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just the kind of closeness you reach only when both people have finally stopped running from the same truth. You're shaking, I whispered. So are you, she murmured. She let out a slow breath, and her body eased just a little, as if she'd been carrying the weight of the choice on her shoulders for days and had only now set it down. I kept thinking I had to be the responsible one, she said softly. But every time you looked at me, she trailed off, the words slipping through her fingers. You don't have to finish, I said. I know. Her hand slid down from my neck to my shoulder, her touch gentler now. No panique. No flinching. Just a slow, quiet acceptance. She stepped closer, leaning her forehead against the side of my jaw, her body relaxing against mine in a way she hadn't let herself do before. It's not just the age, she said. It's everything. The way people talk. The way I've talked to myself. The fear that I'm making a mistake. You aren't, I said. She tilted her head up. Her eyes were steady, searching mine with a calm she hadn't shown in days. You'll think differently someday, she whispered. No, I said. I'll think differently about a lot of things in my life. Just not this. A small laugh escaped her. Not loud or bright. More like a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She reached up and traced her thumb across my cheek. An absent, tender motion that said more than any long confession could. Come here, she said. I stepped in, closing the remaining distance. Our bodies lined up, quiet and warm. She wrapped her arms around my waist, slow and deliberate, like she wanted to memorize the shape of the moment. I held her back, my hands settling at the small of her back where her breath hitched again. We stayed there, pressed close, her head tucked beneath my chin. Her hair brushed lightly against my throat. Neither of us spoke. There wasn't anything to fix or justify anymore. After a while, she lifted her face and looked at me with an ease I had never seen in her. So what happens now? She asked. I slid my hand down her arm until our fingers found each other. Her hand curled into mine right away, no hesitation. We see where this goes, I said. Together. She let her forehead rest against mine again. This time, the closeness wasn't frantic or forbidden. It was steady, real. I like the sound of that, she whispered. I brushed the side of her face with my thumb, slow and soft. She closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, the fear wasn't gone, but it wasn't in control anymore. "Stay tonight," she said. I nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." She leaned into me once more, her hand tightening around mine. Our bodies pressed in a warm, quiet closeness that felt like the beginning of something neither of us needed to hide from anymore. We stood like that, together, finally, without pretending. And it felt right. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?